I'm Justin Davis, and today you're going to learn something about long range FPV. What's up guys, welcome back. We're talking about DJI systems versus analog and which one should you do for long range. A lot of people have been asking that question recently, and I'm going to give you my opinion in this video. It's only my opinion, but it is based on 10 years worth of fixed wing and quadcopter long range experience flying pretty much every type of system out there. I'm going to give you kind of a little brief overview of each one, why you should choose each one, and why one might be different or better over the other as far as range, penetration, and clarity of video goes. So welcome to class, guys. Settle back and get set to learn something about long range FPV. You may be wondering what in the hell this is over here. If you don't know what this is, welcome to Long Range FPV. This is a Video Aerial Systems Dual PepperBox running on 1.3, and it has a little antenna on the top. And what is that tiny little antenna on top, Daddy, you might ask? Well, my son, welcome to Long Range, and this is a 5.8 relay running off of the output of the 1.3 receiver. Well, what that does is it brings all the signal in on the PepperBox. That way I don't have to run a whole bunch of milliwatt on this VTX. So that means I can even sit here and get a clear signal on 25 milliwatt coming off this 5.8 VTX to my goggles in perfect harmony with 1.3. And at that point, you barely even have to run antennas on your goggles because this is just a receiver, but I do recommend it. But the big question today is, what should I fly, Justin? Should I fly DJI FPV for long range FPV? And this is a question that can be answered in two ways. First is, do you want digital clarity and do you want the best view while you're flying out at a nominal range? And when I say nominal range, I mean, you know, 5 to 10 miles. Is it possible to get out that far with DJI FPV systems? Would I personally fly out that far on that DJI system? No. So which system would I choose for reliability in long range FPV? The clear winner for me in all my years of testing from DJI and analog is that analog for me can go out further than DJI FPV system. And first and foremost, you have to know how to fly long range FPV if you decide you want to do a little bit of range flying with your quad. Get yourself set up on a great video system. I started out on UHF antennas and they work great for long range up to 10 to 20 miles. Now usually the rule of thumb is your video is going to go out before your signal goes out on your aircraft. So you're going to start seeing it get fuzzy, and then you're going to know to start to turn around because you've reached the distance of your analog FPV system. Now I ran 1.3 for a long time, even back in my early single rotor days. Yes, I used to fly FPV on single rotor RC helicopters, and it still works great. If you decide that you want a more compact system instead of some kind of giant dual PepperBox like this one running 1.3, you can always go and do 2.4 gigahertz. That breaks this box size into about half, but doesn't give you as good of penetration or signal. Also, you might be asking, can I still fly my 2.4 gigahertz transmitter? No, you need to be flying on 915 or otherwise to fly 2.4 FPV. And also, if you're flying with a friend, make sure they're not flying on 2.4 either while you're flying 2.4 FPV. 2.4 has long been loved by the long range crowd. But what if I don't want to go out 10 miles or more? If I just want to fly, say, 2 to 5 miles to 6 miles out, you can still fly 5 to 6 miles out on, say, 600 milliwatt on analog FPV system. And what's the best way to do that? Where should I position myself when I go for a long range flight? This is super important information that you need to know. The golden rule of long range FPV is to fly higher out as you go, because there is something called the curvature of the earth. Flat earth believers might not believe that, but it is true, sorry. And rule number 2 for flying long range, when you go somewhere to find a location to fly long range, make sure that you're very high up in the air already. If you can find a mountain super high up to perch on and then kind of fly down into a valley, that's a much better signal path and penetration line of sight wise to be able to get back to your aircraft without having a fail-safe. If you fly from the bottom of the mountain and you go up and down into the valley, you're going to lose signal a few miles out. You should also be running RSSI up at the top of your screen so you can see your signal link quality back to your quad and to your ground station. And for God's sakes, you are already running GPS and you have field tested it and your return to home works before you venture out and try to go further than you normally fly. And 100% you know that your GPS is working and functional for return to home. But what kind of control link am I using for my long range quads? I'm still using Crossfire, and that is my go-to. Crossfire on 915 megahertz. That is the go-to with my diamond antenna. And honestly, I don't fly further than I want to hike out and get my quad. I don't need to push 10 to 20 miles out, because it really sucks to get in your car and go drive and try to find your aircraft if you do have a problem. And I know this is kind of a hot topic right now. People are super debatable about whether they should fly DJI or analog long range, and in my opinion, if you come to my channel looking for my opinion, you clicked on this video, my opinion is still going to be analog FPV for long range FPV. If you want to build a ground station, I'll put some links down below to the best setup for a ground station, a PepperBox, and some of the other type of antennas you can put on your goggles if you're not going to run a ground station. But chances are, if you're going to fly long range FPV, you should really set up a ground station, test that out, and venture out a little further as you go, and you gain experience. If you're one of those guys who buys a 7-inch and just sends it out there in the wind and the conditions and the heat, you're going to find out that you're probably going to fail or end up in a river somewhere. I've seen it happen. Don't get too confident. Realize that any given moment during your flight, something can and will go wrong. Expect to fail. If you make it back to your landing point, it's always a Christmas miracle, I swear to God. And you'll have a big smile on your face when you do. So the batteries that I'm going to recommend for your long range flight, if you're doing fixed wing or you're going to be doing quadcopters, is that you use a 6S 8,000 milliamp pack from Geprc or that iFlight full send battery. I'll put some links down below to these bad boys as well, but they add quite a bit of weight to your quad. And you might be wondering, should I bring my GoPro along for the trip? I would leave your GoPro at home. Don't fly with a GoPro for a long range type of flight, because what we're trying to do here is get maximum distance out and back. And you're also going to want to look for a quad with some pretty low kV motors. Motors on my 10-inch right here are 3110s, and those are 900 kV, super low kV. Less amp draw, more flight time. And my brand new Moz7 that we've been testing on the channel, that one's also 2809 motors, and those are 1280 kV, which is a pretty low kV on 6S. These 8,000 packs, they fit on there quite nicely and get me around 25 to 26 minutes. And yeah, you can still fly ELRS if you have a ground station set up with some type of 5.8 relay, because that has nothing to do. The control link has nothing to do with the video system. If you don't know that, you shouldn't be attempting long range FPV. Hey, and as long as you have a video out on your PepperBox, you can always do a conversion out to something else, whatever you'd like. Is that a long range module in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? This is the EzUHF module from way back in the day, probably 2014 circa, running UHF, and it was available from ImmersionRC back in the day, which was kind of crazy. It also had power inputs high and low on here, so you could get this little puppy out maybe 20 to 50 miles. If you look up some of the Russian tested long-range fixed wing, those guys are going out 100 kilometers or more with some of this type of systems. It's kind of amazing what you can do on UHF, and it's kind of a forgotten art in long-range FPV these days because of things like Crossfire. But I feel like I could go further on my EzUHF system maybe than my 915 system from TBS Crossfire. And if you're still hanging out in this video and you've learned something today, I would appreciate you to check out my Patreon down below and become a Patreon for once a month. It's $2 a month if you enjoy the content and my opinion here on the channel. If you'd like to know more information on long range FPV, be sure to join up on our Discord down below. We do have a long range FPV channel inside our Discord. And if you're looking for custom PID-Tunes on 7 inches and other types of drones like the XL10 from iFlight, we also have that available too through our Discord subscribers. So I appreciate all you guys supporting the channel and me being able to give you more info over the years and my tested experience, because experience does matter. Happy FPV guys, I'm Justin Davis. Take care, and I will see you on the next one.